The Independent National Electoral Commission and other stakeholders have been receiving commendation over the conduct of the Edo governorship election.
Many have described the poll as largely peaceful, free and fair. But the vote was not without any incidents. There were a few cases of violence, malfunctioning of card readers, vote buying, and even an attempt to snatch a ballot box.
Now, for these, INEC has received some criticism and has been charged to take all necessary steps to address these challenges ahead of the Ondo governorship election. Joining us now on Skype from the UK is public affairs analyst Alistair Shode. Alistair, good morning. It's good to have you join us right now. I know you. Thank you. I know you've been following. excuse me. You've been following developments, especially the build-up to the Edo State governorship election and the conduct of it, and even the aftermath. What do you think, if we see from the INEC perspective, what do you think really needs urgent attention?
Well, thank you very much. One thing that you have highlighted is this election in Edo State looks free and fair. But one thing as well that the Nigerians, the electorate, the international community, the observers, is the level of the security being utilized. But apart from that, again, INEC has shown that if there is a will, good and free, fair election can absolutely take place in Nigeria. So, and again, they use the method of delivering the result directly to INEC, which again, a lot of people, especially people in Edo State, completely believe that this is a positive step in the right direction to make things much more easier and to begin to have a positive and progressive election in the country.
But can INEC alone resolve all the challenges that it is facing at this time as we speak?
Well, there is no doubt that INEC alone can face it. They are an independent body. They have terms and regulation. They have the policy. They guide the political parties on how to conduct their internal affairs. They are responsible for crime against the voters. They're responsible for everything that has to do with election. There's no doubt they've been given the authority, they've been given the mandate to make sure that they conduct free and fair election, and there is no criminal activities around any election. So there's no doubt that, yes, INEC independently can conduct free and fair election in the country. For example, where political parties were not seen to conduct internal process of how to elect their candidate, then INEC should, according to the mandate and their policy, disqualify that candidate or disqualify that political party. We've seen it happen across the country in all the states, for example, Zamfara. So definitely INEC has the mandate, they have the authority. There's no challenge that should be above them. And if there's any, then they should take it to the National Assembly and get a clarification on that, yes.
All right, now when it comes to a prosecution of election offenders, INEC has threatened to do that in the past, but we've not really seen that measure being taken to the latter. How challenging is that for INEC from what you assess?
And based on what you just highlighted as well, it shows that INEC can definitely deal with every situation to do with political activities in the country. One thing is that, yet they are, for example, in the other election, they have more than 500 cases in court. But INEC just have to make sure that they are the referee for political activities in the country. When you play a football game and the referee is in charge, when he gives you a red card, well, you will have to leave the field until further notice or until indeed you go to the arbitrary and then they find out that you do not deserve the red card. And then again, then there's a consequences. So until when INEC absolutely deliver that they have the will, they have the mandate, disqualify any candidate, for whatever reason it is, according to the dictate of the INEC, then that is when everybody will begin to really rise up. And for the voters, for the political parties, for the candidate to know that they shouldn't do things for futile activity, that they are responsible, and INEC can definitely make Nigerian politics much more better when INEC actually begin to do what they are there to do.
There's also the concern of court cases where when INEC perhaps has finished its own process, we see the back and forth of cases in court where politicians take cases in court to challenge the results or challenge how the elections might have turned out. And that is a whole lot of concern for a majority of Nigerians. Can INEC address that on its own?
There is no doubt. Still, INEC has the mandate. You see, when you give somebody an authority and you actually put them in office and you elected a governor, president, and you appointed people, that means you've given the authority, you have mandated them to do the right thing for the people according to the act that provided that office. So INEC, without any doubt, they have the mandate, they have the policy, they were supported by the National Assembly, at least to get their chairman and other commissioners in that commission. So there is no doubt that people would take anything for granted. And that's why maybe political parties are behaving the way they are doing. For example, in the 2019 election that we just finished, which was the last national election, INEC, according to their dictate, every political party is supposed to submit their detail, their expenses. And the truth is, many of the parties that are in office now, if INEC really played the game, would not be there. All the major political parties would not be there because they spend money beyond what INEC allowed. So people would take things for granted when nobody is doing something. So for me, for Nigeria to really move forward, for Nigeria to be that great, great nation, INEC needs to become INEC, independent. It doesn't matter who wins the election because nobody can remove INEC, for example, until they finish their term. So whoever they allow to win according to the wishes of the people, that should be the right direction. And Nigeria will be greater, Nigeria will be better. We are in our 60th year since independence. So really, if INEC do the game, play the game in the right direction, the best way they can, according to their power that has been given to them, Nigeria will definitely be much more better socially, economically, and at the international level.
All right. One other issue that has risen amongst Nigerians is the diaspora voting. We have millions of Nigerians outside the shores of Nigeria who are interested and want to contribute to who becomes the leader of their country. And we have not seen this taken off the way it is. But do you see it more as an issue of logistics challenge or issues of trust?
Well, there's an issue of trust, number one, and every majority of Nigerians do not trust the other Nigerians. That's a bad thing. And it's not their fault. It's because of what we have seen within our society, within our culture, within our religious leaders behaving as if there's no tomorrow. Now, if we now allow the diaspora that have been contributing more than $25 million on a yearly basis to support their families, take businesses to the country. And these people, for the last 10, 20 years, have been agitating, praying, demanding that they should be allowed to vote. Now, what we have seen in Edo State at least shows that if we go electronic way, then we will not be talking about the issue of logistics. In the international community, as you rightly say, either in Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Americas, we have wonderful system there that can allow all this transfer of result to be effective. And then again, as we have seen, the global community is absolutely changing, ladies and gentlemen. Now the technology has taken more momentum than ever before. Post-COVID, the world is moving into technology and artificial intelligence. Nigeria cannot lag behind. We have the best of the Nigerians outside the country, and we have the worst as well, just in any nation. But again, we need to utilize the resources of the diaspora community who really want to come home and support and build, even if they're not elected, but they should be given the mandate. But at least as we were talking about the diaspora voting, yes, we have the diaspora commission. The request and the demand will continue. The earlier the president, for example, allowed and the National Assembly permit this, the better it will be for them. We're creating a legacy, and people should create a legacy that will leave their name on a solid ground, on a solid platform, so that they will say, when the Nigerians in diaspora become relevant more so as electorate, be able to vote wherever they are in the world, is doing so and so who was in office. So I hope that with this, that we can really move forward. But again, we're celebrating the Edo. Let's see what happens in the next coming election in another state.
Now, INEC is saddled with the responsibility of voter education. And if you look at what played out in Edo State, over 1 million voters registered. But when you look at the results, we had a little above 500,000. Would you say that INEC is doing enough in that aspect? And if it is not, how can it improve on that?
Well, thank you. I think what we have to look at is indeed INEC is creating the awareness, and in this situation, actually, INEC may not have matched the local political parties creating the awareness that is needed. Almost every electorate, I believe, across Nigeria, especially Edo and Ondo, absolutely know what's happening in some of the politics of the state. The biggest problem is insecurity, that people feel that they have been marginalized and they're not too sure about the security situation going out to vote. I think that's one of the reasons why the number of people that voted in this election is much more lower. And when you look at it as well, based on the percentage mentioned, it definitely shows that a lot of people are not believing in the principle of democratic election in the country. Nevertheless, of course, the party and the candidate with the highest number of votes is always the winner. And again, in what happened in Edo, many people do not know the difference between the two political parties because when you look at it, it was just an X cross in the sense that the same candidate that were there in the last election were the same candidate, only that they just decided to switch allegiance from one political party to another. So creating awareness, definitely a lot of people are absolutely aware about the politics, but there's insecurity and there is no internal political policy being followed by the candidates out there.
All right. Another issue that has been on the front burner for INEC is the issue of electronic voting. INEC, on one hand, we spoke to the chairman some time ago, and he said, of course, INEC is ready for all of that, but the legal framework will be the hurdle to cross. But if we look at the kernel of the issue, electronic voting, a lot of Nigerians are saying that if you take the 2016 election in the United States, for instance, as sophisticated as the United States system is, there are talks or discussion or debate around external manipulation and hacking and stuff like that. I wonder if Nigeria is ripe for electronic voting full-fledged.
Well, there's no nation that is 100% perfect or secure that will not have these minor incidences. But the reality is the consequences of what we're facing in Nigeria is much more higher than trying to go the electronic voting way and method. By definitely going the electronic way, we will absolutely achieve much more higher level of political participation. More voters will be there. And if you are so sure about your BVN, especially in the economic part of banking system, then 100% we can absolutely go the electronic voting way. There is no doubt that the differences would be minor compared to the situation that we're facing on every election in the country. So yes, I would recommend that there is no doubt that Nigeria as a leading nation, as the #1 economy on the African continent with more than 14 million diasporan Nigerians outside the country, we should examine it. We should go that way. It will only enhance and make our country better in terms of our position on the African continent and playing a major role internationally. So there's no doubt, there's nothing going that way, and we should without any doubt before the next coming national election.
The president is yet to assent to the electoral amendment bill. This, a lot of Nigerians believe, will bring the necessary improvement for INEC's functioning for whatever elections across the country. As it stands, if the president has refused, or is yet rather, let me use the word is yet to assent to that bill, how much can INEC do on its own to bring about the necessary change, deepen democracy, like a lot of Nigerians are hoping to see?
Well, when we look at any major international sport and the driving international sport, for example, football, boxing, the referee is the ultimate person who decides how the game ends. In Nigeria, the umpire in terms of good governance and leadership is INEC. There is no doubt that INEC has the capacity, as we discussed. They have been empowered by the Act, the 2010 Act of the Electoral Reform. And the president definitely, he needs to leave a massive legacy. This electoral reform bill that is on the table needs to be signed immediately without any delay. That definitely will take him to another level in terms of his capacity, in terms of what he has done for the people of Nigeria, and in terms of the so-called 80 million Nigerian voters that we have. But by that direction, INEC definitely would now begin to referee